Hey everyone, it's Caitlin and welcome to another video. This video is centered around something that I'm pretty sure most of us know very well and love, which is chocolate. So I'm going to be showing you 3 vegan chocolate desserts that not only taste delicious but are pretty darn good for you too. I'm posting this video around Valentine's Day, and whether you celebrate Valentine's Day, Single Appreciation Day, Galentine's Day, whatever other holidays that I don't know that exist, I don't really care, because any excuse to celebrate chocolate is a good excuse to me. So you should definitely try at least one, if not all of these recipes out, and if you're feeling extra generous, you can share them with other people. Personally, I didn't want to share any of them with other people, but you know, maybe you're more generous than me. Anyways, let's get on to baking. So first we're going to start out with some cacao and fig Bliss balls. This recipe is definitely the healthiest of the bunch, but it's still good and I wanted to include it in this video. So most Bliss balls or Energy Bites use medjool dates, but for this recipe I'm actually going to use figs. I love how they have a nice crunch and a more subtle sweetness. So here I'm just covering them with some water and letting them sit for a few minutes to get more tender. Then in a food processor we're going to add some almonds, cacao powder, and a pinch of cinnamon. And then we're just going to cover that up and blend everything together until it's all evenly incorporated and the almonds are chopped up pretty finely, as you can see. Then we're just going to add in those figs that we soaked and then drained, as well as some vanilla extract. And then pretty self-explanatory, just going to blend it together until a nice sticky dough forms. So then you're going to transfer this dough into a bowl, and finally you're going to add in some cacao nibs or some mini chocolate chips and just sort of stir that into the mixture with your hands so they're evenly distributed throughout it. Now we're going to make our Bliss balls, and I like to use a heaping tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of the dough mixture in order to form a ball, and you're just going to put that in your hands and roll it together until you have a ball, kind of like a healthy, more dense donut hole. So just repeat this with the rest of the mixture, and then when you're done, I would suggest keeping these in the fridge or the freezer. I actually prefer to keep them in the freezer because they don't get icy hard or cold or anything, but I find that they have a nicer texture then. This one is super simple but still delicious. I love having them as an afternoon snack or with my lunch as well. Next up, we're going to get a little bit more indulgent and make some no-bake chocolate turtle cookies. So first up, we're going to be making our no-bake cookies, and in a food processor, we're going to add some pecans, some oats, salt, and cacao powder. And then we're just going to blend that up until, like the Bliss balls, the pecans and the oats are finally chopped and you have a sort of coarse flour. Next, we're going to add in some pitted medjool dates. As you can see here, mine were very soft, so I didn't soak them, but if your dates are a little bit harder, I would suggest soaking them first. And then finally, we're going to add in some nut butter. I'm using tahini because I think it works really well with these cookies, but you could also use almond butter, sunflower butter, or peanut butter as well. Then you're just going to blend that all together until you have a nice dough, and then again transfer it to a bowl so you don't chop your fingers off. And then you're going to take 2 tablespoons of this mixture and form it into a cookie. But for these cookies, we're going to be filling them sort of like thumbprint cookies. So you want to flatten the cookie, but then you want to make sure you flatten the center portion like I'm doing here, and make sure the edges of it are a little higher so our caramel won't escape everywhere and we can actually enjoy it with our dessert. So again, you're just going to repeat this with the rest of the dough. This should make almost exactly 12 cookies. They didn't all fit on my cutting board, but it does make 12. I'm just going to show you how to do it with 10. Then you're just going to pop those in the fridge while we make our caramel sauce. So in a small saucepan, you're going to combine some coconut sugar, some plant-based milk, and a tablespoon of nut butter of your choice. Again, I am using tahini here because I think it works really well with caramel flavors. But like I said, you can use all the other options, or if you even have pecan butter, you could use that too. So after you have all the ingredients in the pot, you're just going to whisk them together. And then once the mixture starts to simmer, you can add a pinch of salt if you forgot to add it earlier like me, or you can just add it in the beginning. And then you're just going to keep whisking this pretty consistently, and the mixture will boil, and as you can see, it starts to become darker and thicker. And then by the end, when you whisk it, you can tell that it's a little bit more thick because it's kind of showing you the bottom of the pan, like you can see here, and it's going to thicken even more as it cools. So now we're going to put about half of a tablespoon of the caramel sauce into the center of each cookie. I thought this was the perfect amount for the amount of dough. We're also going to top them with some whole pecans, and last but not least, a drizzle of chocolate. Now you're just going to pop those in the fridge for a few minutes just to let the chocolate harden, and then you're all finished. These cookies are indulgent and decadent, but I love how they're free of refined sugars and they are gluten-free as well. And you don't have to turn on your oven to make them. Last but definitely not least, we're going to make some chocolate hazelnut pudding pie. So first we're going to start out with our pie crust, and in the recipe instructions on my blog, I told you how to make your own hazelnut meal using whole hazelnuts, but I'm just using store-bought hazelnut meal here. So you're going to add that to a food processor with a pinch of salt and a few medjool dates, and then just blend that together, and it will be a slightly sticky mixture. So then you can just add this into a pie pan. Mine is 9 inches across, and just mix it, make sure there are no drier pieces, and then this should press pretty easily into the pie pan and stick together. And then after you have it evenly spread out, you might want to poke a few holes in it with a fork, and we're actually going to bake it in the oven. While it's baking in the oven, we're going to work on our pudding pie filling, and we're going to use some toasted hazelnuts to start out. I also have instructions on how to toast these on my blog, so you can check that out if you're actually making this. But we're going to add them to a high-speed blender or food processor and just process them until they become a hazelnut butter. So you're going to probably have to scrape down the sides of your device a few times. It's going to take around 8 to 10 minutes, but I promise the magic will happen. The mixture will start to get a little bit more smooth and a little more chunky, but then finally at the end you'll be left with a pretty silky and soft hazelnut butter. And this is what you're looking for because you don't want the pudding pie itself to be gritty and have larger chunks of hazelnuts in it. Or maybe you do. I'm not here to judge. So now we're going to add the rest of the pie ingredients, including some vanilla extract, some salt, and some medjool dates for sweetness, and we're going to blend that up. And then we're going to add in some silken tofu. I promise guys, you cannot taste this. It just adds to the texture and makes it more voluminous. Trust me. We're also going to add in some cacao powder to make that chocolate hazelnut flavor, and then just blend this together. And if you don't want to make a pudding pie, you can honestly just eat this mixture on its own, but I want it to be thicker for our pie crust. So I'm going to be transferring this into a saucepan and cooking it down so it becomes a little bit more thick. We're going to thicken it using cornstarch. So we're going to combine some cornstarch with some hot water and whisk that together first. Then, like I said, we're going to transfer that pudding mixture into a medium pot. And before you turn the heat on the burner, add the cornstarch mixture to the pan and then mix everything together. This is because the cornstarch will start to thicken really fast once the heat is added. And if it's not mixed in first, the mixture will get clumpy and it will be hard to make it not clumpy. So after it's mixed, you can turn the heat on, and then once the mixture starts to bubble, as you can see right there, you're just going to continually whisk it for around 5 to 7 minutes so it doesn't clump up like the cornstarch, and we're just making the mixture thicker because some of the liquid in it is evaporating with the heat. So afterwards, as you can see, the mixture is a lot thicker now, and it's going to thicken even more as you cool in the fridge. So we have our baked pie crust, and now we're adding in the hazelnut pudding filling, and you can just spread it around evenly with a spatula. And if you wanted to top this with fresh fruit or something, you could totally do that too. I just decided to leave it as is. Then I put mine in the fridge to let it cool completely, but you could also leave it at room temperature. I decided to serve mine with a dollop of some coconut whipped cream and a drizzle of chocolate, but you can serve it however you please. This dessert is super indulgent but super satisfying, and like all the other ones, it's actually still healthy for you too. So, I mean, maybe you could eat it for breakfast. I'm not judging. And there you have it. Let me know in the comments below which one of these chocolate recipes was your favorite and which one you want to make first. Personally, I think that would be a very, very hard decision because all chocolate tastes pretty darn good to me. But let me see. I think I would have to go with the chocolate hazelnut pudding pie just because it's super indulgent and decadent, and it's like healthy Nutella in a pudding pie form, and who wouldn't want that? Also, let me know in the comments below what your favorite chocolate dessert of all time is, because I should probably get around to recreating that because I'm pretty sure I would like it. If this is your first time on my channel and you like what you see here, feel free to hit that little subscribe button right down there. I post 2 new videos every single week, and some of them involve chocolate. If you want me to make more videos involving chocolate, I can totally do that too. No problem at all. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, whatever time of day it is for you. I will see you in the next video. Bye!